There's so many systems out there that really don't want us to be able to manifest the God that's within us, because then we cannot be controlled. You can do things, right, in the physical world that, you know, everybody will tell you it's wrong. Right, and it shouldn't happen like this. But when you take real control of your life, especially as, like, I would say, a man as well, when it's really in that divine masculine energy, you become a bit like the sun. You know, nothing stands in the sun's way, and if it does, well, when it reaches the sun, it's over. And so what we're really going to be talking about, especially what the divine drive is about, is really waking up that unlimited energy that is within us by understanding these laws and then learning how to apply them on a daily basis, so that we just understand, we are able to just accept life and to navigate it, so that we become the creators rather than allowing other people to create that life for us.
And we abandon the victim.
Yes.
And embrace the God.
And that is the core of it. So I think to really jump in, you know, I would like to kind of break down what is spirit, what is God, right? So you understand the concepts when we're going forward with some of the episodes. You really understand what we're talking about when we use these phrases, because they're thrown about so willy-nilly nowadays.
Absolutely.
That, you know, you can get confused. So when we're talking about spirit, plain and simple, it is awareness. What is your awareness? It's what you sense. When you have a thought, you become aware of a thought. You've picked it up from a higher level, and it's your awareness that then says, okay, this thought is in the effort, right? And now I'm aware of that. That is a thought. And then you have the ego. The ego is your mind, right? It is if you want to talk about it on a cosmic level, it is the universal mind, right? In certain books, they've called it the All-Father. You know, there's always the divine masculine. It's not physical. It's what acts upon the physical, so that we have the world that we are able to, you know, see today, right? Because we all know that atoms are 99% empty space.
Yeah.
So what allows us to sit on this chair, what allows us to create things, it's because there is a consciousness and a thought process out there that's higher than us that allows this to appear to be physical. And those are the laws that we're talking about. And then when we talk about the divine feminine, we're talking about matter itself. So when you look at the universe, you have something called dark energy and axioms, right? The law acts upon these things, and then things come into being, right? This is when, you know, you create something, you've taken your mind, right? An idea that you've had, and then you have taken the physical world because of something that is intangible, and then you've made it real. Absolutely. Right? That is the combination of both the divine masculine and divine feminine. As an individual, it's a bit different. You have your personal spirit, which is your individual awareness. Because if we was aware of everything at all times,
too much.
Yes.
For the human system.
Yes, we will go insane. Okay, so we have an individual spirit, and then you have your own individual ego, which is your mind and your identity. You are not born with your ego. You develop your ego over time. This is because of the thoughts that are given to you, what your parents say to you, Absolutely. The experiences that you have, and then the frequencies that you decide to pick up whilst you are growing up. Typically, your ego takes a minimum of 7 years even to get started, right? And they prove that in psychology as well. And they say that the mind is developed then. But you are born with a soul, right? And that's the divine feminine. The divine feminine, like a point I'm going to make, actually comes first. You know, in the Bible it says, in the beginning there was darkness, but they always say the light, that's what they focus on. But the truth is, you are not born with your wants, you're not born with your desires, you're born with your needs, you're born with your emotions. And so being able to understand that your frequency and your energy is more important to deal with than just your thoughts, because it's your frequency that what creates your physical reality. That's what we've all had thoughts, right? We've all had dreams, we've all had goals, but we don't keep it long enough for it to go from the conscious mind, which you could say is the ego, right, down into the subconscious mind for the body to be able to act on these things effectively, for you to be picking up the subtle things, the conversations that you should be having, right? So that you
feel it at an emotional level.
Yes, to feel it at an emotional level. We've all had moments when you've wanted something so bad, and then you may be walking down the road and you see something or someone right? That you're like, oh, I just feel need to speak to this person, and then they have what it is that you need.
You're guided.
Yes, that's because you've kept a thought long enough and with enough intensity that that's come into the divine feminine that is within
And it
you.
resonates, and it has to be born.
Yes, it has to be born.
In any form of personal development, if you don't know your worth, then everything else will fall apart.
Absolutely.
It's the cornerstone of personal development.
Yeah.
So in order for that book to actually take work how it needs to take work, you need to know your worth.
Yeah.
Or else everything else it just becomes a pleasant read.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without that.
It's merely a suggestion.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. But in order for you to put these actions into place, you have to know your worth. And self-worth is something that I think as a people that we struggle with.
Absolutely.
We've struggled with it historically.
And we've been conditioned to struggle with it historically.
Yes. So knowing your worth is very, very important, extremely important. And, one of the things which we've got to look at as well is the self-image. Yeah. Why do we have a low self-worth as a collective? Yeah. Now, again, some people are going to be like, I haven't got a low self-worth. My self-worth is high. As a collective, I'm talking about here.
Sometimes it's hard to read why we are collectively inadequate. But even those as individuals who are inadequate within it don't necessarily see themselves as part of that collective inadequate circle.
Yeah. Just because you're doing well, you're thinking that we're not talking about you.
And there's also a perception of doing well. Because you can be middle class in terms of income, and you can be 3 months away from being homeless based on the necessity of your employment. And I don't think we take all those things into account when we're taking that for granted, when we're being pat on the head as the executive who's doing great.
What happens is you start to move in a vibrational frequency, a proton state. You start to move away from an electron state into a proton state. You move away from a negative frequency where the rest are vibrating. And because you have this awareness, you're now reconnected with who you originally were before you were body. You go back to spirit again.
This is the key. Remembering, you see, when we talk about education, we don't actually touch on what it actually is. Because I frequently say, which my spiritual teacher said to me, there's nothing wrong with you, there's something wrong with your story. And although we call it teaching, I'm just reminding you of who you are. And when you're getting back to source, because we talk about the one consciousness, if this bottle is the body and this is the consciousness, everything that is in there is going to join the ocean. All liquid will join the ocean. This is the point. And then we just remove that cap, which is the veil. But first you have to be aware of the veil to remove the veil.
Let me tell you why you are so right. And I agree with you 100%. I'm going to tell you the reason why. The thermostat, the temperature gauge is the one.
It's the one.
That's the one. And the positive is the separation. And the negative is the separation. Yeah? We always have to start with the one first before
Source.
The separation has to happen. The source, exactly. We always starts with the one. And when we get back to the place of the one, then you can see all. And that's why there's a saying, and the saying says, eyes can see the world, but the eyes can't see itself. Yeah? Scales can weigh everything, but it can't weigh itself. A knife can cut everything, but it can't cut itself. So when you can go so far back that you can't do anything else but to look outwards, that's when you can now observe the world and people for what they really are.
And
what
you
it
become
really
the
is.
objective observer.
Exactly.
And that's where you can start to leave some of the emotional reaction.
You've got it.
Yeah.
You've got it. And so that's what it was for me. I went so back into self that all I can do is see outwards. There's nothing else behind me. My back is against the wall in a good way. And all I'm doing is observing all what's happening outwardly. So if someone, for example, is criticizing me, I don't take it personal because nothing's behind me for me to look backwards, for me to look at what am I and who am I, why that person's saying something. All I can see is what is happening from their negative, emotional, vibrational view and perspective.
And you get to the point where you can just say, I don't have any monkey in that circus.
Exactly. Not my circus, not my monkey, you know. And when you start to understand the world as well, you start looking at the 8 billion people on the planet, the 1.4 billion people in China, the 1.3 billion people in India, the 1.3 billion people in Africa, the 370 million people in America, the 69 million people in England. And then you start looking at the 100 people who's talking about you, you're like, what, in accordance to 8 billion people, I've got time to focus on you? And we understand the science that where your focus goes, your energy flows.
Human monkey chatter.
Right. And so what happens is, and this is why it's important for children and for us as a people to go into the world and have a world view, because you stop looking at the trivial, the minor things that would normally make you feel down, make you feel inadequate, it make you feel angry, make you feel like you're not worthy. You stop looking at those things because the world is beautiful and no one cares on the other side of the world what this person said about you on this side of the world. No one cares. All they want to know is, are you a person of servitude and goodness?
The SigmaCarta YouTube channel is filled with content, but the difference between that and our premium Patreon platform is Patreon actually gives us the application of all the lessons we're learning on YouTube. SigmaCarta community is designed for our personal, spiritual and entrepreneurial development. There's no way we can just hear information once and get it. So what we've done is we've broken it down into sections, lesson plans, seminars and courses so that we can actually adopt into our lives what we didn't with 48 Laws of Power. Even though we know all of the lines that sound impressive to our friends and we're still in exactly the same psychological place as when we first picked it up.